All right. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Anke Liu, and I will walk you through today's workshop. Just to confirm, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Great. So thanks again for joining. Today, I'm going to also walk you through how to get started building apps on Stellar. So a little bit about me. My name is Anke Liu, and I work for the Stellar Development Foundation, or SDF for short, which is a nonprofit organization founded in 2014 to support the development and growth of the open source Stellar network. And so with Stellar, SDF seeks to unlock the world's economic potential by making money more fluid, markets more open, and people more empowered. The foundation helps maintain Stellar's code base and supports the technical and business communities around Stellar, and really provides thought leadership to regulators and other stakeholders. So really everything we do at SDF is to make the network as a whole succeed. So today I'm going to walk you through kind of like Stellar basics, what's Stellar at a high level, how are assets issued on the network, and then also really explain like the power of Stellar, like what are some of the use cases on the network, and also how is asset exchange done. And then we're going to spend most of our time looking from Stellar under the hood. So what's the Stellar stack look like? And then I also will introduce you to some helpful tools and tutorials. Great. So what is Stellar? Stellar is a blockchain network with the goal to provide financial infrastructure that's fast, cost-effective, resilient, and most importantly, available and accessible to anyone, regardless of where they live. This is very important. Individual payment schemes are currently not interoperable, and this leads to high fees and delays, especially when transferring value. It's also inequitable. It currently excludes billions of people who do not have access to traditional financial services. Blockchain technology is really challenging us to think about money and value really in a new way. But like evolutions of the past, presenting the opportunity to make it better, like more effective and more efficient. So its use cases really go far beyond just investing in cryptocurrencies. In much the same way that the internet democratized access to information, Stellar uses blockchain to democratize access to the financial system. It can make sending around the value around the world as easy as sending an email. So Stellar was founded in 2014 after Bitcoin, but before Ethereum, and handles millions of transactions each day submitted by businesses, banks, governments, and developers all over the world to create and move value faster, more cost-effective, and open up access for a wider audience. Stellar uses an open source network that uses an environmentally friendly syncing mechanism called the Stellar Consensus Protocol, which is specifically designed for remittances and payments. So it has like cash-like delays between transactions, and it's more or less free to use. But what does Stellar actually allow you to do? Stellar makes it possible to create, send, and trade digital representations of all forms of assets or money. Like dollars, pesos, Bitcoin, pretty much anything. And we'll look into that in a bit. So like other popular blockchains, Stellar has a native asset called the Lumen or XLM that really serves an infrastructure purpose in the network, such as account creation and transaction fees. But what really the purpose of Stellar is that it allows the issuance of all kinds of assets. So today we distinguish two types of assets, non-fiat backed assets and fiat backed assets. Non-fiat backed assets like include cryptocurrencies like in-game tokens, securities, commodities, and governance and community tokens, and the very popular also NFTs, which are unique assets on the blockchain that represent art, music, video, and certificates. But unlike almost other blockchain systems, Stellar makes it possible to represent the world's currencies and really can connect to real world endpoints. So people can turn their money, can turn their digital representations of money into something they can actually spend. And this allows the businesses, banks, and governments and developers that I mentioned earlier to build products that solve real world problems for their users. Some examples of these are like CBDCs and central bank currencies, which are currently being explored by governments and central banks around the world, but also stablecoins such as USDC, which are issued by regulated financial institutions and money service businesses or fintech companies called anchors. Pretty important alert here, anchors. Anchors on the Stellar network facilitate moving a value from a traditional banking system into Stellar and vice versa. They really help create a world where the existing financial system is connected and interoperable with Stellar. So how that will work is that an anchor actually connects Stellar to a local banking system and also handles regulatory compliance by doing things like collecting KYC information so that users can really focus on making deposits and withdrawals. So when people hold the tokens, they can treat them just like traditional money because they know that they're exchangeable for traditional money in the end. And you may think like, wait, I'm not a financial institution. Like, what can I do with Stellar? And so really the beauty of Stellar is that you don't have to issue an asset to build on it. Issuing assets is super easy. Obviously, issuing an asset that represents any type of fiat currently is a lot more difficult, right? But you don't have to do this in order to actually build an app. You can also build an app that offers users access to the assets that these other organizations or anchors issue. You can take advantage of a suite of APIs and use Stellar as a backend to allow users to store, trade, and transfer value. And you can even leverage existing and compliant access points to offer in-app connections to real-world currencies. So your users can get on and off the network easily. So in other words, kind of your app can interoperate with anchor services. And this is pretty powerful if you want to actually reach an audience that is global or have an audience that where you also need to interoperate with the current traditional financial system. So I kind of want to show you kind of what this looks like through a few examples of some live companies in Stellar serving users right now, starting with Vibrant. Vibrant is a dollar savings app that gives people in Argentina inflating beating tools by providing the ability to convert their savings into USDC, which is the fastest growing US dollar stablecoin. This fun fact, like USDC is a super helpful asset. It's also available on multiple blockchain networks, including Stellar. And Stellar USDC makes it easy so that these digital dollars can go anywhere with very low transaction fees and also fast speeds as well. And so back to Vibrant. So like in the past 3 years, the inflation rate in Argentina has reached sometimes reached over 50%, which has a lot of impact to the local community. And so with Vibrant, they can actually protect the value of their salary from devaluation and really safeguard that long-term value have goals for the future. So it's pretty impactful, basically allows Argentines to swap their Argentine peso for USDC and save their money that way. Another impacting company is Leaf Global Fintech. Leaf's Stellar-based wallet is designed for refugees, cross-border payments, and the financially marginalized. And it's inclusive and accessible for those who are typically excluded from like formal financial institutions because of a lack of internet connection or smartphones or language or identification documents or even just money for fees. This wallet has been live since 2020 in Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya for like smartphones and also basic phones through USSD technology. And currently most of the customers are actually, I hope you don't hear all the noise around me. I have a lot of construction happening always. So sorry about that in advance. But yeah, this app is really cool because it like offers, like most of their customers are refugees in Rwanda who currently don't have a bank account. And like with this wallet, they can secure or store their money securely and safe, especially when crossing borders. So like another interesting company is Lightmint. Based in South Korea, Lightmint is a tech company and NFT marketplace really that leads the NFT space on Stellar, connecting creators, collectors, crypto enthusiasts, and gamers to unique experiences. And really leveraging the power of the Stellar network, Lightmint makes it possible for anyone to mint NFTs for less than $1 instead of several $100s in gas fees on Ethereum or other blockchains. So this has a real world impact on the accessibility of NFTs, especially for those who cannot afford high gas fees or are simply excluded from the traditional internet financial system. And so this kind of has like together Lightmint and Leaf Global FinTech that I mentioned earlier have made like a great collaboration late last year, where Leaf launched one of their first ever NFT collections of impact art generated by refugees, which empowers local artists and kind of also introduces a new stream of income for them. So it's very exciting. And this also shows that blockchain and NFTs are not just like fad passing by, they can impact real world use cases. Yeah, and so like kind of now you understand how value is issued, and we have covered a few use cases as well. We like the most straightforward use cases on Stellar are payments, and more interestingly, cross-border payments and remittances. So to facilitate this cross-currency exchange, Stellar has a built-in decentralized exchange that takes advantage of both order books and automated market makers. So it's pretty cool. So in addition to actually tracking balances as Bitcoin or Ethereum do, Stellar also tracks and settles trades in a decentralized, ownerless way. It has common built-in order books that pool orders to buy or sell assets that use kind of the same model as traditional exchanges. But since last year, it also has liquidity pools, which allows users to deposit assets into reserves of an automated market maker. And like automated market makers, or AMMs for short, you might not recognize the term because Uniswap uses them. They're very, very popular because they use AMMs. And so these AMMs, they execute trades programmatically based on an underlying formula, and they're less complex or capital intensive than order books. So AMMs effectively crowdsource liquidity. They're pretty nifty. But like together with these two mechanisms, like every token on Stellar is exchangeable with any other token on the network, and the Stellar protocol itself connects buyers and sellers with each other. Great. And so this like we have a Stellar operation called Path Payments that make use of both of these mechanisms and allow a user to send one currency and have the recipient receive another. The conversion rates, so Stellar compares the conversion rates available by trading against the order books or against an AMM, and automatically routes a trade through whichever provides the best conversion rate. And so this is pretty interesting because if you also like look at more like traditional financial cross-currency rates or cross-currency transaction, that you always need to do like either like two or multiple to get usually to perform a transaction, which is using a liquid assets. But with Stellar, you actually you have this automatic like one atomic path payment route that uses that. So it's pretty exciting, and it uses these like AMMs and also like the order books to make that conversion rate. Great. So I've talked a lot. Kind of now we've covered what Stellar is like, and we've also covered some of the assets in Stellar and also like how exchange works. I wanted to like look a bit closer to see what's actually under the hood. And so, as I mentioned before, like, Stellar network consists of nodes, and like nodes are independent computers all over the world that keep a common ledger of accounts and balances. And so these that's a kind of like the network that you see on the right of my slide. And they listen for incoming transaction and kind of use the innovative mechanism called Stellar Consensus Protocol to agree and apply a valid set of those transactions to update the ledger. And so each transaction applied to a ledger incurs a small fee, which is necessary to prevent bad actors from the network. But it's like a 0.0000035 or something like dollar worth of XLM. So it's like a very small fee, but it's big enough to deter bad actors from spamming the network. And also the ledger is generally updated every 5 seconds or so. Though you don't need to set up a node to get started building on Stellar. Instead, you can start building using your programming language of choice through a suite of SDKs. Like we have JavaScript SDK, Python SDK, Java SDK, and many more SDKs that you can use to get started. So instead of like as often what you see on Ethereum or other chains, you have to learn a specific language in order to build on it. Stellar is pretty simple and also like offers support in your programming language of choice. And so these SDKs, they are connected to the Stellar REST API called Horizon, which handles queries and converge kind of like that Stellar core network data, which all the nodes run, into a friendly format. So, and kind of like search as a bridge between apps and Stellar core. So when you're developing on Stellar, you can, for the most part, forget what's under the hood and just use that intuitive API to submit transactions and query network data. It's pretty cool. And to kind of make it a bit more concrete, I wanted to kind of take a look at a UI that makes it kind of easy to interact with the stack, and also really explains well what you're looking for. So I kind of, this is a Stellar called the Stellar Laboratory. It's an easy interface that you can use to experiment building and signing and submitting transactions. And so I want to also any one of you to open up this link called laboratory.stellar.org. But in the meantime, is there any questions currently from the audience that I can answer about what we just covered? Yeah.
Yes. So just so I'm clear, like this laboratory type of environment, is that kind of that Horizon piece that you just discovered? I'm kind of still trying to grasp what the Horizon like bridge is there.
Yeah. Certainly. So basically, like, you know, you have that Stellar core network data that all the nodes run. Then you have also like the apps that are building on Stellar. But in order for them to build like the Stellar core data, it's not very friendly format, right? It's very compact. So we have this Horizon API that is a kind of a layer that these SDKs, you know, also like tap into. And so we are basically this laboratory is kind of an interface to see how we can interact with that API. It's and it is kind of like an extensive wallet, I would say. It's just like it just pulls information from API and makes queries to it, and also like allows you to build, sign, and submit transactions to the network. And so we're gonna explain a bit how that works. And is that the relationship a bit more clear?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, it's usually easier if you just like start working with it yourself, and they're like, oh, okay, it's actually pretty easy. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to kind of walk you through like first how like all of the tabs, kind of like how the interface works, and then we're going to create a custom asset. And if everyone wants to follow along, they can all create a custom asset on the Stellar test network. So that's why, definitely open up your laboratory.stellar.org, and then I'm kind of gonna walk you through it. Is there any other question before we kind of dive into the laboratory? Yes, Mary.
Hi, Anka. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today because, you know, our students learn about Stellar. We have a case study in our casebook, and I'm currently updating it. I'm really fascinated by your adding the liquidity pools in the last year. I cannot find an explorer that tells me the value of the liquidity pool. So is there a place where we can see this? And the second question I had is the chat seems to be disabled, except we can only talk to you. And oftentimes we use the chat to interact with you and with each other.
Oh, yeah, I'm not actually sure how that works. Wait, I see everyone. Okay, you should be good now. Okay. Sorry, great. I didn't realize we had a special setting for that. Yeah, so the liquidity pool. So actually, like, if you want to learn more of it, we have a good blog. In the Stellar ecosystem, and I can just forward you this, and I can also like put this everyone meeting. So this is like a good blog if you want to learn more awesome. About it, but to kind of like see how Stellar the liquidity pools kind of come in action. We have this wallet or like exchange marketplace building on Stellar that pulls information from Horizon about kind of like what the liquidity pools are, and if it's just loading, I can probably like also share what that looks like. Let me see if I click AMM. Let's see, analytics. yeah, you can kind of see here like what
It's awesome.
currently.
Thank you so much. I think I was Googling the wrong thing. It's the X that I need in there. Okay, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
well, this is not like Stellar.org, because like our website's called Stellar.org, but this is a wallet. So this is not our website. This is just someone that like developer that's building on Stellar. That this is one of their use cases, right? So they built like this mechanism that allows people to deposit liquidity, but obviously like built on Stellar. So they use the Stellar like Horizon and Stellar SDKs to like build this this interface. Yeah, it's not owned by us. Yeah, and then you can also see like some interesting like things for like, you know, like let's see, this top pair is like USDC. It's very exciting. You can kind of see like how that works. People can deposit liquidity. It's exciting because this like AMMs really allow like the accessibility of being able to deposit liquid assets, because like order books in the decentralized exchange, they often like what you they are more used by professional market makers that would deposit that would put up a bid and asks, right, and make a profit off the bid ask spread. But because like it's they would need like capital up front, they would also need special expertise and like infrastructure to actually manage risk. So with AMMs, it allows like anyone to come on and deposit liquidity, and because it's so accessible, it's like we also are able to have yeah, it's beneficial for providing liquidity. But it's very exciting. So if you want to like learn more about that whole step, this whole, wait, actually no, not this blog, it's another blog. I'll find it for you, and then I will move forward with my tutorial. Yeah, we have like lots of great information on this on our website. Also, like, is this one? This blog is really good. Okay. Yeah, here we go. Okay. All right, so this one, and I've just put it in the chat, and I'll also put in Stellar X in the chat as well. So
thank you.
Great. Awesome. So that's that. If you have any questions, definitely take a closer look. In the meantime, I would like everyone to go to laboratory.stellar.org. Oh, no, 1 second. And then we can go through the tutorial. So let me know if you're all on there right now.
On it.
All right, great. And I'll put actually I'll put it in the chat as well. Great. So let's see, like when you're on it, this is probably the screen you will see. And kind of like, so just to, you know, like Stellar has both a testnet and a public network. The test network is really great for exploring, kind of experimenting with Stellar, and the public network, that's where all the live assets are. So like just now we've watched like Stellar X, that was on the public network. So those are all live assets. But on the test network, there are also test network assets. They don't, you cannot redeem those for any value because they're test network. But it's a great way to kind of for developers and businesses to experiment before actually deploying their live project. So yeah, today obviously we'll use the test network as we want to experiment with Stellar safe from live assets. But yeah, so you can perfectly fine use Stellar Laboratory, but you can also use it for live assets. But today we're just going to do the testnet. So very important, make sure that your laboratory is on the testnet before we go forward. So first thing first, like Stellar is very account based, right? So like everything revolves around accounts. And so to do anything, really, we need to create an account. On the public network, you would have to like generate a key pair and then fund the account with a create account operation, but with at least the minimum account balance. But on the testnet, we have this handy tool that can fund you with 10,000 testnet lumens for free. Obviously, they're not worth anything as it's a testnet, but super useful for you to experiment with it. So let's do that real quick. So right now, I think like I'm going to, I generated a key pair by clicking the generate key pair button. then and you can just like watch first, and then we're going to go into it later to actually do it. So feel free to just watch now, and then you can try it on the laboratory later. So we're going to fund this with the friend bot, and then we're actually going to, we have it funded. So now this account actually lives on the test network. Then like we have this tab, explore endpoints, is really like for you to like search or like run queries against the Horizon API. So if you want to look up a specific asset and kind of what is done with that asset, you'll basically like put in accounts, and then you get the JSON response, what has happened or what the this can find on the ledger. Yeah, okay, that works. I see a message. Bye, Stephen. We will see you later. Or like
I have a question real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
So are these resources, is this kind of like the block? It feels like a block explorer type of thing.
It is, well, we have another ledger explorer for Stellar. It's called Stellar.expert, but this is a interface that, so you could use this also to explore the ledger, like this particular tab, right? Explore endpoints, but it's not like a great interface. We have Stellar.expert for that, which just has a bit better interface. And then you can really like explore and also like see all of the different assets, and it also pulls from the same source, right? Horizon, but it's just a different interface that they coded in. So basically this is more like also like test, and you can like search for any type of asset here as well, and it's real time. Let's see, for some reason I lost my notes again, so we'll move this forward. It's really annoying. I have my like notes on this whole thing. All right, great. We should be all set. Then we're going to go to transactions, right? And which is really the bread and butter. And I'm going to like explain kind of how the transaction anatomy works in a bit. But transactions on Stellar change the state of the ledger that are sent all over the world by users and businesses using Stellar. So if you think of Ledger as kind of like a database, transactions are its SQL commands. So on this page, you can see like you can build the transactions. Then obviously, like we also need to sign them with our keys. Like for every transaction that you build, you need to sign it to authorize the transaction. That's on this page. And then on the final page, we need to actually submit it to the network. And so once signed, this entire transaction is folded into a transaction envelope, which you see here. It's encoded in XDR, but you don't have to worry too much about it. It looks a bit scary, but it's just, Laboratory is a bit of a raw format. It's like a raw interface for you to really understand how Stellar works. And so this XDR is kind of like used throughout the Stellar protocol as a compact way to encode this data. So yeah, don't worry too much about it. It's just like an envelope where all that data is kind of collected. And then when we submit it to the network, you can, then it's actually being submitted. But first things,
sorry. Do we need to, do we have to, I mean, so is all the encoding handled by the APIs, or do we need to encode the requests?
So that's why like the build transaction comes in. So basically you would specify, so you could also do the same thing in code, right? So we have the SDKs available where you would download the SDK and then they would run that. This is just an interface that showcases kind of how it would work for people that don't necessarily know how to code directly, or is just like a good way to show it for me right now. But you would have to like build a transaction, and that's where we're going into now. So like for simplicity, like I kind of want to, so if this would be on the build transaction page. For simplicity, we're only going to cover the traditional type of transaction, but there's also a fee bump transaction, which you can look in on our developer docs.
Yeah. So the SD, oh, sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Yeah, definitely.
So the SDKs would do the encoding for us.
Right. So you have an SDK, and then, as a developer, you would, obviously connect the correct endpoints to your user interface, and you would add the features that you would want. When you add the features, the operations, and we're going to look at like a simple like wallet tutorial that some of our wallets, a code sandbox example, where there's already like a few of these like operations built in for you to kind of connect your endpoints to in a bit. But yeah, it's quite simple. So like when you see the code, I think like it will make sense a bit more as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this interface basically like sees like all the different, so I will explain all of the different endpoints that transaction needs and how you can configure a transaction and choose your operation to be able to submit it to the network. It's more like I'm showing you the manual version, but if developers will be able to add this in code, this would all run automatically, so to speak.
I was looking at the documentation is really, really thorough. I was looking at it yesterday and it seems a lot simpler than what we're doing now.
So, oh yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's like.
Did I disconnect?
I think he froze. No, I think maybe Anka froze. Let me just give it a second. Just messaged her. We'll see. Oh.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened. I think I must have talked too much. So like it automatically it just broke me off. Let me see.
We can jump back in.
Yeah, let me show you this. Okay, and then I'll just put the recordings together if necessary. Okay, so wait, are you seeing my whole screen or my
we see, yeah. We weren't seeing your whole screen. We were just seeing the window.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect. Great. So I will continue then. It's easier than you think. So basically, like this is how a transaction will work on Stellar. So you have the source account that originates the transaction, also responsible for providing the sequence number, which identifies each unique transaction. And so every time you kind of start a new transaction, you'll have to create a new sequence number. Then also fees, like so each transaction, as I mentioned, incurs a fee, which is usually paid by the source account. And in this particular field, it's a bit misleading because in this particular field, you specify actually the highest fee you're willing to pay, but you're actually charged the minimum fee based on network activity, which is usually like 0.00001 XLM, which is many fractions of a cent. So again, fees are small enough that it's negligible, but big enough to deter bad actors from spamming the network. So then you also have a memo, and we don't have to worry about memos and time bounds too much today. But generally, like if you are, let's say if you were on Coinbase, right, and you have they give you like, oh, you want to receive XLM, they give you like a Stellar address, and also you have to specify a memo. Well, this is where that memo field will come in. And in such exchanges like Coinbase, they actually use that public address and identify individual accounts on their backend by adding that memo. But that memo could be anything. It's just a piece of extra information. So don't need to worry about that too much today with our custom asset creation. And then also like optional like time bounds. So this is kind of optional timestamps to kind of mark time bounds when these transactions will be valid for submitting them. We also don't need to really look at them, but what we will look at today is the list of operations. And this is very important to note. So these operations are really the individual commands that mutate the ledger. And different from transactions on like Ethereum or other blockchains, Stellar transactions can contain up to 100 operations. So like basically operations can be like payments, managing buy and sell orders, you name it. So you can actually put a lot of operations into one transaction. So making transactions a lot more like powerful, and also like you're able to scale your work. And so it's pretty powerful.
Question, sorry, yeah. Is that kind of like a light smart contract type of capability, or is that something totally different? Making it programmable, like is there an if then type of statement that's in those operations, or is that going to be separate?
Yeah, so like yeah, just from the bat, like Stellar does currently not have smart contract capability as like, people know it as like on Ethereum. We are actually looking into adding it this year, so it's very exciting, definitely keeping our ecosystem. But I would say like the operations, you can actually do quite a lot with operations. And there's also like something called like asset, like I think I will cover it in a bit, like asset flags, where you can really like kind of configure how your asset should be named. So you can actually do quite a lot with just the operations. Currently, it's not like, I would say it's not like you cannot do whatever you want, but these are like the core operations like offer like a lot of functionality, especially like if you want to do anything about payments or asset issuance. Obviously, I think smart contracts are super powerful, and we are adding this later this year, but you can already code in like almost everything that you want with just the operations alone. So there's 23 actually. We're just going to look at 2 today. And then you can also, obviously, I mentioned we need to sign them as well. So you would need a signature. You could even do like multi-sig and really configure how you want to kind of open the, lock to your account, so to speak. But yeah, we're going to keep it pretty simple today. So it seems like a lot, right? And I mentioned like there's actually a lot of operations on Stellar. You can do all sorts of cool things. But for today's time, we're going to create an asset, and just quickly covering it. For assets, like assets have an asset code. Let's say this USDC, right, has a USDC asset code. It also has an asset issuer that issues the assets. Then there's a concept that I want to introduce you to called Trustlines, which is it's quite kind of simple if you know what it is. So basically, before an account can actually hold an asset. So let's say if I have an account and I want to add an asset, or I want to like be able to receive an asset, I have to first establish what's called a trust line. So it's basically an explicit like opt-in to hold a particular token. And so we're going to like try this out in a bit. And then, what I mentioned with these flags too, like Stellar really provides a built-in mechanism that allows you to tune your asset to specific use cases. We're not going to go into this deep dive today, but for example, stablecoin issuers would control access to their asset using these like protocol level flags, for example. And they can also like publish important information using their Stellar TOML file. But both of those things we're not really going to touch today. Great. So now I think we're all ready to like kind of like experiment with it ourselves, to seeing like how we can put all this information that you just learned into a very compact 40 minutes and to actually creating an asset. So unfortunately, there's not really a custom creation asset operation on Stellar. Wish it was that easier, huh? Instead, actually, we're using 2 accounts, which are called like an issuing account, which issues the asset, and also a distribution account, which performs 2 easy steps. One is that trust line that I mentioned earlier. So basically, if we have account 1 and account 2, then call account 1 the distribution account and account 2 the issuing account that issues the asset. The distribution account has to basically say, okay, like I give the okay that you can give me that custom asset. And then the issuing account will be like, okay, I will actually send you that custom asset. So it's a payment. So first change trust and then sending a payment by the issuing account. All right, so let's actually try this out. So let's go on the laboratory. And so if everyone wants to kind of join me on the laboratory here, we're going to the create account section, make sure you're on the test network. And we're going to kind of replicate what I just talked about. I'd also like encourage you to have a kind of like a document ready to paste the accounts, because we kind of need to go back and forth to paste an account. So if you have like a notepad or like an empty document that you can kind of get ready, that will be awesome. Every time I go here, like we have that Zoom section. So yeah, so basically if you're on here, first things first, we're going to generate that key pair, right? So just click on generate key pair and you'll see this nice public key, secret key. If this was a public network, you should definitely not do this live, because obviously, secret key, if you have access to your secret key, people have access to your account, but it's test network, so it's not worth anything. So let's actually like fund this. And so you click on this, like this thing, fund this account and test network using friend tool below. and then get test network lumens. And so this will allow you to have a nice 10,000 lumens, test network lumens on this particular account. Great. So is everyone on the same page? Everyone sees this page with the pop-up? Just making sure. Yeah. All right. Perfect. Yes. So then let's copy this. Let's copy this account and let's go to. I have to zoom pop up again. Let's go to your notepad or something, and let's paste this real quick. And so we have this one account. Let's label it distribution account. It's very important. So this will be our distribution accounts. Okay. So just make sure you've pasted it, you've labeled it, so we know what account this is. Then we're actually going to create another key pair. So you would do basically just the same thing. You generate another key pair, then you fund this account, and then you go through the buttons again. And so we funded another account because we need 2 accounts to get started, as I mentioned earlier. So same thing, you would copy this account and you would paste it in the link. And so basically what you would see now is that you have 2 accounts, and you can label the second account the issuing account. Does everyone have created 2 and funded 2 accounts yet on the test network? 1 minute? Okay, I'll give you 1 minute. It's yeah.
Now.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. Perfect. So you have both created these 2 accounts. Then let's actually so start a transaction, and we can actually copy this this public key already. Just for so make sure you copy the public key of the distribution account. Let's actually build that transaction. So back on the laboratory, we're going to build transaction. So you're on this tab right now, and so there's this source account that you see here. And since we are going to initiate our transaction with the change trust operation, we have to use the distribution account public key. So I'm just going to paste that in here, right? And then we're going to fetch the next sequence number. So you have to always use different sequence numbers. We don't have to worry about these, as I mentioned. And then you see here all the list of operations, right? And so first things first, we're going to do the change trust because we have to change trust for a custom asset. Then you actually have the opportunity for the asset code to do it from alphanumeric, to do it 4 letters long or up to 12. So I'm let's say we're going to do I can do an alphanumeric 12 today, and we can do let me see, you are Arkansas, right? Let's do that for University of Arkansas. We can make a U-Arkansas asset today. Great. So once you kind of fill that out, we can actually, so we see here the issuer account ID. And so if we go back to our accounts, you see here issuing account, right? So we have to get this public key, and we just copy it. So make sure to copy the public key. We paste it in here. And then basically that's the assets that we will kind of say okay, this account, this source account will trust this issuer to send this particular asset. And then we just, so as everyone finished this putting in the operation information? Great. Oh, 1 minute, Mary. Yeah. So make sure you follow along.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So that was adding one operation where we added the issuing account. If we did another operation, would we need to create another issuing account ID? Or is
no. So this is the source account. Basically, we just created 2 accounts. So one account will be the distribution account, and one is the issuing account. So let's say this account will issue an asset, and then to distribute that asset, you should good practices for to send it from the issuing account to the distribution account. So that there is currently, so basically then you would say, okay, there's currently if I want to issue 500 U Arkansas coins, right? Then I would send 500 from the issuing to the distribution account. If I actually want to cap that total amount of U Arkansas coins at 500, I would basically lock the issuing account, and then there's only 500 in this account, because like you have to actually create to actually make an asset or an amount of asset exist on the Stellar network. You have to send a payment in that asset. But first we have to do the change trust. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay. And you can actually do everything in one transaction to make it super simple. But just for for your understanding, like we have put it kind of in two. So yeah, Mary, have you caught up to the transaction?
Yeah, I just have one question. Can you go back up to your transaction sequence number just real quick for a second?
Yeah, you just have to click this button. That's all.
Okay, you and I each have an identical transaction sequence.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you know what? That's okay. Let me just sign this. Yeah. I mean, let me like sign it real quick, and then you can go through it as well, because like obviously we're doing this at the same time, and so sometimes actually you shouldn't have an identical one, because you just created one on your own and the issuing account has like changed one. So yeah, let's just follow along, and if it doesn't work, you might just have to reboot your sequence number. But yeah, so now basically, if we want to actually have this go forward, we need to sign it. And we had this public key being the source account, so then we also have to sign it with its secret key. And you don't need to worry too much about these particular wallets. So these are also ways to sign the transaction. The ledger is a hardware wallet. You can sign it like using these buttons, but today we're only going to sign with this raw secret key. We don't recommend it usually, because it can lead to exposure of secret keys, but for the laboratory, it's fine. So then so once you put in the secret key of your distribution account, you will submit it. And so then you would see this XDR. Is everyone seeing this? And then you would just hit submit. And then you would see something like this. So now this is already, so we just did this change trust operation. This is on the ledger of the test network right now. So everyone follow along. Everyone has submitted that first operation.
Yes, for me.
Great. Yeah, it's easier than you think, right? It's like a kind
of course, mine says failed.
Okay, try going back to build and try like fetching this next sequence number.
Okay.
And then just like click on like sign again, and then just click on like when you're here, you're clicking on the submit, and then you would just submit it again. Try that.
That's actually a great problem, because then if someone, trying to go back and go through this while they're building has the same issue, we're addressing it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's usually like, sequence numbers, like you have to just make sure that's it's a thing that I often ran into when I first getting started on the laboratories. Like, why is it not going through? And I just didn't refresh that. So sequence numbers are very important because they like identify the transaction and give it like kind of that unique position on the ledger. Mary, did that do it?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, great. So I'm glad we're all done. So we're going to do another transaction. Normally you could do this in one transaction and just do two operations and change source accounts, but it's a bit difficult for the first try. So we're just going to clear the form contacts here just to start over again. And we're going to do now the payment operation. So let's actually and you can do your custom asset to like I did U Arkansas. You can do something completely different, right? But for this, yeah.
Was that clear everything link just for Mary? Or
no, for everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't see that. Which tab are we on?
It's a build transaction, so it's like clear form contents.
Okay, got it. Yes.
Yeah, and you could also go to sign transaction and kind of clear everything, just because like then you're not very confused, or you just start a new transaction. I mean, you don't need to do it, but it's just good practice. So now we're going to start our second operation, which will be from the issuing account. So let's copy this public key from the issuing account, because we are going to make a payment from the issuing account until the distribution account. So back in the laboratory, we're copying this public key, then we're fetching the next sequence number. Make sure you click on it, you have a valid sequence number. And this time we're going to choose the operation called payment. And the destination will be, because we're sending it from the issuing to the distribution account, so we'll have to copy this public key, right, for the destination. And then you can put in your asset. We had and then the issuing account ID, we also have to copy. So we're going to copy that here. So this is how it's kind of should look like. So the destination would be the distribution account public key. The asset would be the asset that you created here. And then its issuer, which is the issuing account. So that's this one. So, and the amount, of course, the amount. How many Arkansas coins do we want to be on the ledger? Give me a number. How many do we want? It doesn't really matter.
10,000.
10,000. All right, we're going to issue 10,000 today. That's great. So then, we would make put 10,000 Arkansas coins on the test network ledger. So same thing here. So if everyone finished this part, did everyone finish this first part? It's very important. Great. So then you would basically just sign it again. And if you haven't cleared it, you might just want to clear your previous transaction signer, because we need to use a different signing key. We need to use the signing key of the issuing account this time, because we are initiating this transaction send payment with the issuing account. So we also need to use the secret key from the issuing account. And just so you know, if you try to add another key, it won't work, because it only works with the minimum amount of keys necessary to sign a transaction. So great. So when you've done that, you just do the same thing, sign and submit. Takes about 5 seconds. And then you've actually submitted. So now you could use Ledger Explorer to search up your assets. Usually it will always show up here. So if we're going to look here, SAS, we're going to use asset code. Let's see, submit it. We get this nice little JSON response. Oh, you can actually see, I think this is mine. There's actually multiple assets. So someone else here just issued
I did too.
Yeah. So either one of these is yours, because you also did the same amount. So we kind of have two new assets, with different issuers here, you can see.
So it's possible to have two assets with the same name. How do you identify which one is which?
Because of the issuing count. So actually, I need to copy this. I'll copy this issuing count here real quick. And so then we can see this. So if this is a Ledger Explorer, so it also taps into the same source. So if I just tap in this, we can, see, this is our new asset that I just created. Usually, for some reason, it only works, this interface works better if you put the issuing account public key instead of the actual asset code for newly created assets. So if you want to test it out, Stellar Expert, you can go to make sure you're on the test network, otherwise it won't show up. And then we can see here our asset here that just created, 10,000 Arkansas. You see that trust line that I just enabled, and you see that, we transferred. So there's currently 10,000 total supply of Arkansas. Pretty cool. Obviously, it's not worth anything because we haven't put any buy and sell orders or liquidity pool orders on it to make that asset actually worth anything. But obviously, test network, it's not really, you can't really redeem. But anyway, it's a cool way to kind of see how easy it was to, even for non-coders, to issue an asset. And this would even be easier in the code, right? It's 2 lines of code that allow you to issue an asset. But this is kind of to understand the technology behind it. Great. So and did everyone complete doing the issuing asset?
I obviously did, because I made the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I just got a couple of questions. So so is that Arkansas coin backed by XLM, or is it just a generated coin, just like you'd create a new ERC20 standard on an Ethereum network or something?
Right. It's just like it's currently not backed by any. It's not backed. It's just a general token. You haven't backed it by anything, right? But like, let's say like you wanted to create a stable coin, right? You would obviously, that takes a bit more, effort, and you could also look into like how Center, for example, minted Stellar USDC. They do that also by 2 different assets, and then they back up like reserves behind that asset, right? US dollar reserves. So to make sure that for every one of those tokens that there's a US dollar behind it, or at least some kind of representation through treasury bonds or whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's obviously through the like anchors and the asset issuers, and then they specify that information in that TOML file that I showed you. And that's one of the Stellar ecosystem proposals. There are protocols that all of those anchors use to like publish information, also like interoperate with each other to allow for like anything from like cross-border payments to like other like interoperable features that they need to use like on top of the Stellar network. So that's kind of how it works. This is currently not worth anything, and if you wanted to like you need to like bring it to the market like by using those like asset exchange, someone would need to put bid order, so like buy and sell orders, like so like, oh, I want to buy you Arkansas for this amount of XLM, or you would put it in a liquidity pool, right, to actually make it work. But I mean, custom tokens, like I think they could also work really well for like any credit system. So let's say if you're building like a project and you want your users, let's say, to like build up credit by like your engagement, so having kind of like a community project, and like so your users do one thing and then they get a particular coin back, right? It's like rewards. That also works really well, and then you can exchange that, right? You can allow your users to exchange that for like XLM, or you can allow users to exchange it for something else that they could like donate to like charities, or like there's tons of ways where it's not just like, oh, you're making another pump and dump coin, because obviously that's not very useful for any ecosystem right now. But you can actually use it in your project to to build your real life use case, if that makes sense. Long answer to your question.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. Okay, so great. So, obviously wallets are the most like, so I'm just finishing up my presentation here. Wallets are the most most built apps in the Stellar ecosystem. They interact with anchors. They also interact with assets and really allow users to compone, sign, and kind of submit transactions. Go ahead.
Quick question. So the asset you just created, are we able to kind of find that asset on a Stellar wallet? Does the wallet work on the test network, or is that only if we had a real asset that was created? How do we interact with our assets and wallets?
Yeah. So basically you would have to, because this is on the test network, right? And so like wallets can filter what kind of assets they want to present. Because like you wouldn't, like if you're a wallet, you're a real life wallet, you wouldn't necessarily represent all the thousands of millions of assets that are currently being, like you Arkansas, that don't really have value, right? Or that don't really have any traction. So wallets like can configure their interface to only show certain things. But this Stellar.expert is a ledger explorer, also works on the testnet. So if you wanted to have a real life wallet, you would usually put it on the testnet, on a public network, right? Because that's where the real life assets are, and that way you can also put real bid and ask orders. But for students and for anyone who is experimenting, they can definitely build an interface that can show these types of assets on the testnet. Yeah, for sure. It's just the way you configure it and like allow which assets are showcased. You can build in like everything for your users pretty much. And kind of like to help you with this, this is a old link, but so you can use it too. It's for another hackathon. We have a this code sandbox example, which might be also like, I will drop the link in the Discord as well, which basically like allows you to connect with already a non-custodial wallet, which is called Albedo, and has built in 2 features, which is called use like that, changing that trust and also payment. So those two operations we just covered. I think, I'm not sure if you're able to see my screen here.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
well,
great.
I think so. We're seeing the basic wallet example.
Yeah. So this is Albedo. So like basically, because we just use that secret key to sign our transactions, but that's actually not a great, it's not the best way for your users to sign in. First of all, because that is just really unhandy. That secret key is super long, and so you have to like copy it. Number two is really because there's risk that actually people can copy your secret key, or like kind of it leaks or something. And so, you have to be, as a developer or as a, app builder, you have to be really careful about, like these keys, and make sure you don't really store them yourself, because and make sure. And so that's why, you can actually integrate with Albedo. And so like the integration is already on this example that you can kind of just fork and just go ahead with. And to actually allow your users to sign in this way much more securely than just signing in with a secret key, because it's that you cannot put that to production level. It's what scams account use. So that's also like a good thing to like, really think about. Make sure you don't ever leak your user secret key. And so basically, like, it's pretty. I need to sign in here because I kind of wanted to showcase how this is working. Yeah, I mean, we don't need to exactly, I guess, like okay, like for the sake of today's, like you can kind of test with it. Basically, like you would sign in, user would sign in, and then they would see these two buttons, like create a trust line and make a payment. So there's a very simple, like really raw, like Stellar wallet example. And, there's like these, there's two views here, which you have the payments and kind of like the account intro. Because I did, the interface won't refresh, but here are all the JavaScript SDK, and you can kind of play with it. So I'll share this link and then kind of finish my presentation because it's been kind of long. So why build on Stellar? It's an open source software. Transactions are confirmed within 5 seconds. Ascent pays for thousands of transactions, and also low resource requirements make Stellar energy efficient. It's a very different consensus mechanism than, for example, proof of work. So really, like that makes it so that we can also look for like longevity of the network and making sure that things on Stellar stay stable and like really focused on financial inclusion. And on top of that, you can use those anchors to really plug into like real world assets. So we've seen the Stellar Expert, you have tons of assets there that also like allow their assets on the test network. So you can actually like use their APIs to kind of like allow your users to use those assets. It has built-in compliance for your needs. Also like these Stellar SDKs I can quickly take a look at after this. And then it's, we have that sandbox environment as well. That makes it really easy to use. And just like to go to developer documents real quick, you would just go to developers.stellar.org, and here you can find everything you need to get started. And also like this SDKs that I talked about, you can see that it's in like many different languages, like you have the JavaScript, Java, Go, Python, and many more to get you started in no time. Then also, like, let's say like after this hackathon, you're interested in really growing your project. There's a Stellar Community Fund, which is an open application grant program for Stellar-based projects, where the community actually votes on which project they would like to see flourish. And yearly, we give up about like 12 million XLM per year to a Stellar-based project. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I'm actually like in charge of leading the execution of the program. So it's really exciting to see, especially like, you see like hackathon projects like asking for a few $1,000s to grow, right? But there's also like full-fledged companies that are asking for like several $100,000 and get funded and, are really growing. So it's really exciting to see this growth in the ecosystem through this program. But it's also open for like smaller projects that just want to kind of get started and like really grow like their initial ideas. So really healthy community as well. And if you are like, you want to learn more and kind of like that laboratory environment and kind of want to like move from laboratory into actually growing, I would definitely recommend you to look at Stellar Quest or quest.stellar.org. you can complete, and it will actually soon be launched as a more like learning platform, but it's already pretty good now. Basically, you have like quests that you can go into and challenges, and where like create accounts, send a payment, or create an asset, what we just did, right? Pretty easy. So you can get some really cool NFTs as badges that you can prove that you did that. So it's pretty cool. And then we also have like developer and community channels on Discord, which are just, if you have a question, just pop in there. There's a really healthy environment.